Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and today we will be recreating the Sir Alex Ferguson tactic for around the period of 1993 to 1996. So this was when the Premier League was sort of formed and we started to see the creation of just not classic English football, as you'd call it, just Route 1, hoofing up the field. So it was a team that did win the league. Well, they started to change their mentality towards the end of the season, just to clinch them the title, when they played against a title rival, Norwich City, the exact team. So how they played it was, obviously the goalkeeper was Schmeichel, so we'll keep that how it is. Actually, we know what, we'll go straight through the tactics first before we go through each individual person. So just off the bat of it, they played a 4-2-3-1 really. It was the first time ever really been seen in England, as normally it used to just be 4-4-2 constantly. That was any formation that was used. So we put mentality as balanced because that's sort of how it is. Not really. They like to soak up pressure and then counter, but they didn't fall back constantly. They had so much prowess when they were going to attack. So for a start, we've got attacking width as narrow because they didn't really attack narrow. Giggs on one side and Lee Sharp on the other would always cut him. And we're going to be focusing the play through the middle as distribution sort of went through there, so we need the player to hold it. So we're not going to do anything for mixed crosses, nothing for passing directness, but the tempo actually will move it extremely high because on the counters, if you have seen any of the videos, there was some beautiful one-touch football from some players, especially Cantona as the attacking playmaker, who would do so well just to, do a few little touches here and there and go straight up. So for dribbling, we're going to be running at the defence, and also we're going to be more expressive. So if we jump into transition here, we do have nothing for the when possession has been lost, but when possession has been won, Man U are very, very good at countering, very fast. And whenever the goalkeeper got it, they distribute quickly to go that, and they always distribute on the playmaker, so the playmaker would be around here, so either Paul Ince or Cancer were the main ones they'd use. Also, they were joined with a converted forward, Brian McClare, that was a converted forward, who would sort of sit here and help out, so he came back from like the wingers to help out in midfield, so that he'd have sort of adapted to that role throughout his life. And for distribution type, we have throw it long because Schmeichel used to always love to pick up the ball, throw it out, and get the counter attacks going fast. So out of possession, I didn't really change anything. They didn't really they didn't have tight marking, didn't use offside trap, had standard everything else really. So now let's move on to mainly the players. So obviously just a quick summary of how the formation would be. It was fast football with counter attacking. They would always soak up the pressure and then go straight back out. They'd always push as fast as they could. They'd mostly go out and distribute to Ince or Cantona. So right now that is Pogba or Fernandes. So Pogba or Fernandes are going to be our aim to distribute to. So for the front three, they'd always be very fast. So these really had the players of Giggs on one side, with Lee Sharp on the other, and then they played the striker Andre Kanchelskis up at striker, who was more of a winger, but while Mark Hughes was a great striker for this sort of, for sort of tactic, Mark Hughes will not be sitting at the top. He will be coming off because I wanted to get the change in the football, because this is why he normally played against the big six and the 6-pointers they used to call them. He liked to always play this against the bigger teams who had changed their ways a bit. So really, let's go through the roles individually. So we just sort of got the goalkeeper of De Gea, not really the best. On him you mostly want quite good at throwing. So here we've not got a very, very good throwing on David De Gea. So obviously he's not the ideal sort of fit for here. But obviously if you really wanted to go for and change everything, it would be possible, but that's sort of what you've got what you've got is, before I mess up my words much more. So in defence, you had we've got Wan-Bissaka here, but the right backs who filled at their time of Paul Parker, on that side. Sometimes, those sides did not really advance much. They were more defensive, leaving on the left-hand side of Dennis Irwin, so that is Artelles here, who will go up and support the attack when they are going up. So in the centre-back, you mostly had the partnering of Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister. Not really done much for them, just kept them on centre-back on defend, because, just defending was the key thing. So Lindelof will be more of the Pallister role, just sort of a defender, mostly doing everything with defending, nothing much more. But with Maguire here, he sort of is similar to Bruce because he has quite good heading. That is one thing that he did quite well, was Steve Bruce scored so many goals from heading. So we've got a 6'4" centre back of Maguire who has 17 heading, so he's going to try and recreate Steve Bruce's great heading attributes and, help those out through the season. So Pogba we have with Paul Ince, so I've sort of gone with box to box, can defend, can attack, can just do a lot. So where can we highlight his role here? Maybe trying to find it. There we go, box to box. They're going to let me highlight this. There we go. So obviously you just want him to be decent, good passing, able to sort of dictate the tempo a little bit, but also be very good at just hoofing that ball out to the wings or up to Cantona and just getting off so fast. And then next to him we do have Matic, who is sort of in the role of being able to attack well. So Matic doesn't really fit. This is the one person I'm probably going to switch out or get another midfielder. But Matic sort of resembles Brian McClair. So Brian McClair was very attacking. From his history, he was more of a forward than a midfielder. So he wasn't the most. He was defensively solid, but he was very good at joining that deadly attack when it needed to be done. So when they got up and on these counter attacks, they were very, very scary to go against due to the fact that all of them joined the attack early on. And this was back then, when their two centre mids would sit deep, let the wingers and the strikers just attack, and the midfielders just stood there. So to have these extra players added on was not the easiest for teams to deal with. So we jump in now to look at our wingers. So let's look at we'll be looking at Greenwood and Rashford. So both of them are decent in these roles. So this sort of, resembles Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs. The issue with Ryan Giggs and Lee Sharp was, while they're both good players, they were both predominant left wingers. So it wasn't the easiest for these two, as on both wings you had left-footed players. But out of the both, Giggs was more of the attacking, but they were still both wingers. That not anything else, inside forwards and all this wasn't even thought of. Trequartistas, none of these are really in the game back then, as it was slowly moving on from being a classic 4-4-2. So they're both wingers. We have Greenwood more on support to resemble Lee Sharp, and Giggs on the left will be Rashford, who is more attacking. Now if we look at Fernandes is the player who's like Cantona. He is the strings of this team. He creates stuff to happen and just sort of plans most things. As Fernandes or Cantona was the main person, anything would go through him or the two midfielders. They were the key attributes of this squad. So Cantona had the skill of being able to score for himself, creating chance upon chance very easily. And then if we look up at the striker here, we will have Martial, but he will take the role of Andrei Kanchelskis. Very sorry about butchering his name. But he doesn't really have any certain role. He wasn't really a false nine or any of this. He's just sort of an advanced forward. He did move into the channels, which is the one reason I've sort of held up there. He wasn't very good at holding up the ball. Well, obviously he was not a target man, he was more of a winger. Poacher, he was not a poacher. He liked to, sort of play complete forward. Not that at all, because he isn't complete. And he didn't. They'd probably press once. I think a Trequartista was never thought of. So it's really just an advanced forward and how it is. So I probably will make a few signings to fill out this team, so obviously I've got a few other things, so I do want to create a good aspect to this team. So I'll buy another midfielder to join Pogba to take over the role of the Scottish Brian McClare.